Even for President Trump, it was a rapid U-turn. After floating the idea of delaying November's election, only hours later he was walking it back.
I don't want to delay. I want to have the election. But I also don't want to have to wait for 3 months and then find out that the ballots are all missing and the election doesn't mean anything.
Earlier on Thursday, Trump tweeted that universal mail-in voting would make the 2020 elections the most inaccurate and fraudulent in history. He called for the elections to be postponed until people can vote securely and safely. The suggestion was soundly rejected on both sides of politics. Democratic Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, quoted the Constitution, which gives Congress the sole power to set election dates. Even leading Republicans distanced themselves.
Never in the history of the federal elections have we ever not held an election, and we should go forward with our election. But we should have absentee voting, but this mass just mailing out ballots without having any checks and balances, without people requesting, really brings concern in there. But no way should we ever not hold our election on the day that we have it.
As the coronavirus surges in the US, Donald Trump is doubling down on his attacks on mail-in voting, despite a lack of evidence to support his claims. Critics say he merely wants to distract from the pandemic and the economic crisis hurting his bid to stay in the White House.
Well, let's bring in Erwin Collier here. He's currently with Bard College in Berlin, and he analyzes political affairs for us. Good to see you, Erwin. Republicans have supported Trump on many things, but delaying the election, is that a bridge too far?
That would be such an outrageous attempt to go around the letter of the Constitution that there are easier ways to suppress voters. And sort of trusting local parties to close down polling stations are the sorts of things that are being done and attempted. So that I think it's too obvious, and also clumsy. It was just a clumsy sort of remark by Trump. Quite often he speaks before he or his staff thinks, and that's why you have to bring these things back as soon as possible to do even less damage than uttering such a remark causes.
Erwin, Trump has repeatedly suggested that mail-in ballots are vulnerable to fraud and threaten the legitimacy of the upcoming election. What do you make of that argument?
It's not a good faith argument. There's been years, decades of experience with absentee voting. Clearly, we are in unusual times, and increasing the scale of probably an order of magnitude is something serious. But simple things such as making polling places safer, opening up more voting places, having voting boxes where people can just drive by and drop their ballots in. All sorts of innovations are possible, but aren't being discussed. So the fact that all the other things to make voting a safe activity, an easy activity for voters, we're not seeing that. So the fact we're not seeing that is just, this is smoke and mirrors of a larger voter suppression attempt.
Critics say that President Trump is deliberately trying to undermine confidence in the American political system. How robust is that system, given the problems facing the country right now?
I wish I could be more optimistic. The Constitution is a remarkable document, but, many things have happened in the meantime. Such things as political parties. They're not explicitly mentioned in the Constitution. And what we are seeing with, one party capturing both the executive and one of the houses of Congress can engineer things that the writers of the Constitution did not think of. That the power of impeachment proves to be much harder than the founding fathers thought it would be. So just that is one simple example. The gerrymandering, the idea that politicians can choose their voters rather than voters choosing their politicians. The role of money in public voice and the new media. All of these things are differences. And the challenges are enormous. And right now, there's plenty of reason to be concerned. And the voter turnout, that will be the sign whether or not the system will, in fact, be robust enough to withstand the shock of pandemic, economic crisis, and a major failure in government.
Erwin, thank you for your insights. That was Erwin Collier of Bard College. More now, I'm joined by German lawmaker Dr. Andreas Nick from Chancellor Angela Merkel's CDU party. He's a member of the Bundestag Foreign Affairs Committee. Thanks for being with us, Dr. Nick. How do you think Germany would react if Chancellor Merkel suggested postponing a planned election the way President Trump has?
I think this is a pretty unimaginable scenario under German standards. The election law is the domain of the parliament. We have a tradition to do everything in election law in a broad consensus between the government and opposition parties. And we have the federal president who takes the ultimate formal decision as a watchdog and safeguard. So I think such a scenario would be pretty unimaginable under German circumstances.
Under President Trump, U.S.-German ties have hit a new low. Current polls indicate that Trump is unlikely to win re-election. If Democrat Joe Biden becomes the next U.S. president, do you think relations between these two countries will improve?
I think this is a fair assumption. We would work on the basis that at least communication style and cooperation between governments would improve significantly. I think we know a lot of people in the Biden campaign who would take a senior role in a Biden White House quite well. Nevertheless, there are some fundamental issues that will remain, like the question of NATO defense contributions. We would have probably also some disagreements with regard to China policy or other issues, but I think those would again be discussed and sorted out in a partnership style, in an open and trusted communication, as we have dealt with policy differences that we have had with each and every U.S. administration in the past decades.
One topic that has been dominating German-American relations in recent months is the notion of U.S. troop withdrawals. The U.S. Defense Minister Mark Esper has now confirmed details of a withdrawal of thousands of American troops from Germany. How much of a blow is this to German security and security of NATO?
I think it is predominantly weakening U.S. capabilities in Europe and beyond. Don't forget, the overwhelming majority of U.S. military based in Germany is not here for territorial defense of the Federal Republic of Germany, but is here on a global crossroads for global operations of the United States in the Middle East, in Africa, and other places. So it's, first of all, weakening American capabilities. It's a bad sign that for merely domestic political reasons, NATO capabilities are weakened. It's a weak signal towards Russia and other countries in our neighborhood. And we will have to see. There's a strong opposition in Congress against this measure, and we hope that whatever has been declared this week will not necessarily be enacted on an accelerated time frame before the election and before Congress has to make certain decisions.
Dr. Nick, thank you very much for talking with us. That was Andreas Nick, Bundestag Foreign Affairs Committee member from Chancellor Merkel's CDU party.
Thank you.